Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video I'm going to be discussing the top transfers going into double game week 22, and you can be certain I will be covering off those important Man United and Leeds assets. You have all of that to look forward to in this video. So if you are new around here, we'd really appreciate if you can hit that subscribe button and join us on this season. And if you enjoy the video, make sure you do drop a like just to show the love. So guys, without further ado, let's get started. So as I mentioned guys, there is no better place to start than Man United's Bruno Fernandes, the man who has basically been the talk of the town in this downtime that we've had away from FPL during the EFL Cup and the FA Cup fixtures. Now, a quick reminder that Man United still have their second leg of the EFL Cup semi-final to play this week. So I really don't urge any managers making any moves right now, just in case Bruno Fernandes was to feature in that game and get injured. I wouldn't want you to be wasting any of your transfers, that's for certain. And we saw that in their cup game where Eriksen actually went off on crutches in their fixture against Reading. So similar could happen to Bruno Fernandes. So I just want you guys to be careful. Now, first and foremost, if you do not own Marcus Rashford, he is absolutely the priority move for your team, with that confirmed double game week at home to Crystal Palace and against Leeds. That is by far your priority transfer. Now, if you're in a position right now where you have two Man United options, let's say, for example, Luke Shaw and Marcus Rashford, then I really think Bruno Fernandes is a massive consideration for your teams at 9.8 million. You can see the information on the screen here is based on the game weeks 17 to 21. And I understand it is quite a small sample size, but I really do think that over this period, it has been the real key period that Man United have had. In particular, the time that they haven't had without Ronaldo. I think that's really impacted Bruno Fernandes in a positive way. We've also seen the introduction to likes of Weghorst in this team and how that is going to skew the information that we see with Bruno Fernandes. So that there on screen is over the past few game weeks. And I know a lot has been said about Bruno Fernandes being a fantastic option going into this game week, but I would like to say from an underlying stats perspective, I really don't think his stats are as good as a lot of us are getting excited about. Expected goals per 90 at 0.17 really isn't that good for somebody at 9.8 million. Again, we would want to be seeing numbers around 0.3, 0.35 per 90, really, when we're comparing him to the likes of Riyad Mahrez as a perfect example. But where he has been really prominent as an FPL option over the past few game weeks is his expected assists per 90 at 0.56, puts him in one of the best of all FPL midfielders, actually exceeding Kevin De Bruyne over that game week period of 17 to 21. And you can also see that in the big chances created per 90, he's currently averaging 1 per 90, which is really good underlying numbers. Now, just to put this in comparison to the numbers that he was producing in the opening 16 game weeks, expected goals per 90 was at 0.16, so pretty much identical. But where he has really improved is in the expected assists per 90. In the opening 16 game weeks, he had 0.27 per 90. So we've basically seen a double in the increase of expected assists per 90, which is really solid. And expected FPL points per 90 was 4.37 in the opening 16 game weeks. And between game week 17 and 21, we are seeing 5.91 per 90. So we're really seeing a better version of Bruno Fernandes over this period. I don't think it's a coincidence with the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo being removed from this Man United team. Now, one thing I do want to mention is, of course, the injury to Eriksen, how this potentially might hinder or benefit Bruno Fernandes. Now, we don't really have any concrete evidence to first and foremost confirm whether Eriksen is going to miss out on game week 22, but I think the assumption is going to be he will. And secondly, we don't really have any data where Bruno Fernandes has performed in a team where Eriksen has been absent so far this season. Nothing really to draw any certain conclusions. But if we are to expect the likes of Fred and McTominay coming into the team and playing a double pivot alongside Casemiro, I would not be surprised to see Bruno Fernandes operating in more of an advanced position in this Man United team. And naturally, I think if that was to happen, it's only going to improve him in the expected goals per 90 department in comparison to his expected assists per 90. Although the chance creation is fantastic for an FPL option, realistically, if I'm paying 9.8 million for a player, I want to be seeing those numbers and the expected goals really come through the roof. Now, based on Game Week 22 in isolation, because we have to remember, the reason we're piling on Bruno Fernandes is because of that double game week, that fantastic duo against Crystal Palace and Leeds at home. He actually has the second highest projected points, only to Marcus Rashford at 10. And over the 22 to 25 game week period, he is potentially going to score 23.6 points. Now, realistically, I think a lot of managers out there are probably sat there with Kevin De Bruyne in their team and thinking, do I go sideways from Kevin De Bruyne to Fernandes and then back to Kevin De Bruyne for his double in game week 23? And I think based on the projected points, I think that is a good strategy for you if you have 2 free transfers available. De Bruyne is expected to outscore Fernandes over that 4 game week period at 26.6 points. So to conclude, I really do think Bruno Fernandes is a fantastic move for your FPL teams. I think he will benefit with the absence of Eriksen playing further forward, and also with these 2 home fixtures. I really think it's a fantastic opportunity to bring in someone like Fernandes, who is a slight differential in the context in comparison to someone like Marcus Rashford. If you want to do the hop on, hop off strategy, I don't mind it at all. But if you can be in a situation where you keep Kevin De Bruyne and manage to squeeze Bruno Fernandes into your team alongside him, I really think that's the optimal move for your team. Because then you could keep De Bruyne and then maybe downgrade Bruno Fernandes to someone like Riyad Mahrez to capitalise on that double game week 23 for Man City. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I'll be really interested to know what your thoughts are on Bruno Fernandes going into double game week 22. So next up, let's cover some important Leeds assets that I think need discussing. Now, those 2 players are going to be 5 million forward Gnonto, who's really burst onto the scene over the last 3 or 4 game weeks, and Leeds' top goal scorer, Rodrigo, who has been an ever-present in that Leeds team so far. Now, a quick reminder in regards to the situation that we have with Leeds, because I really think they're quite an interesting prospect for us. In game week 22, they have their double, away against Nottingham Forest and away against Man United. In game week 25, which is going to be a blank game week for certain teams, their fixture is confirmed against Southampton, which is a really decent fixture in the grand scheme of things. And then, if they were to lose their FA Cup match, they would then have a game in game week 28 against Wolves, which again is quite a favourable fixture. So Leeds could open up a lot of doors for managers if they were to lose in the FA Cup. They would have a fixture in the blank game week 25 and they would have a fixture in the blank game week 28, which really would help a lot of managers out there. Now, a quick reminder that Gnonto is a forward on the game and Rodrigo is a midfielder when we are comparing them. And I want to quickly come to a conclusion on Rodrigo here, because although his underlying stats are fantastic in comparison to Gnonto's, expected goals per 90 at 0.44 is actually really, really good, and something that I wasn't expecting to see when I was looking at his underlying stats. And importantly as well, expected FPL points per 90 at 5.41 is really solid for a midfielder that is at 6.4 million. I think the reason why I'm not that interested in Rodrigo as a midfielder is just because the vast amount of midfielders that we have available to us in the game. With the double game week for Arsenal in game week 23, I really think a double up in their attack, whether it be double midfield or one midfield, one forward, is essential. You put that alongside someone like Marcus Rashford, you maybe put a Matoma in there and a premium midfielder like a Kevin De Bruyne or a Bruno Fernandes. I really struggle to see how Rodrigo is going to fit into a lot of FPL managers' teams. And although I think he could be a fantastic long-term hold, my problem is that the potential rotation that could happen going forward for both Gnonto and Rodrigo. Just to name a few players, we have Sinistera, Bamford, Somerville, and their new signing McKennie to come into this team. And with all these sorts of players vying for these minimal amount of shirts, also Jack Harrison, I do think, although both of these will start for Leeds, their expected minutes is going to be coming down each and every game week in comparison to what we have seen over the last 4 or 5 game weeks. And that's what I really do think that Gnonto is the best Leeds option if you are looking for an attacker. Now, importantly with Gnonto, what I really do like about this strategy is that it means that you can basically change your team structure towards a more 3-5-2 formation. So, for example, if you are sat there with Haaland and Harry Kane alongside Mitrovic or Ivan Toney, you're probably playing every single week that front three. However, if you were to downgrade Mitrovic into someone like Gnonto at 5 million, it frees up money in the bank to invest elsewhere in that midfield. And secondly, it gives you the option to bench him week in, week out and bring him into the fixtures that we know he could offer great value, like the Game Week 25 fixture against Southampton where other teams are going to blank. So I really do like Gnonto in terms of a team structure perspective. And not just that, the stats are decent for Gnonto. 0.28 expected goals per 90. Again, not the levels of Rodrigo, but still decent viewing. And also shots in the box as well at 1.68. So to conclude, I don't really think jumping into Leeds assets is necessarily a desperate move for your teams. But I think if I was going for one, I think I would go for Gnonto in the assumption that I'm going to start him in double game week 22 and accept that he may be a regular bench player for my team, but a fantastic player to come in the fixtures where my midfield or defence have tricky games and I need to fall back on the 5 million forward. So I'll be really interested to know what your thoughts are on the Rodrigo Gnonto discussion, guys. I'm currently vying on the Gnonto side. Right, last up we're going to be covering another comparison with some defenders that I really think need to be on the radar for us. It gives us quite a nice balance on whether to go for defensive options in the double or offensive options. And that comparison is going to be Man United's Martinez and Man City's Ake. And I really think this is quite a relevant conversation for many different reasons. First and foremost, if you did not know, Cancelo has left Man City. Absolutely ridiculous. I couldn't believe the news when it did broke. On loan to Bayern Munich with the option to buy at the end of the season or after that loan period has ended. So Cancelo is gone for the rest of the season. And one would assume that Ake is now the number one left back in this Man City team. And already with the quotes that Pep Guardiola has been saying about how fantastic Ake has been playing, I really do think at 5 million, he is one of the best value defenders in the game right now when we are looking at teams who post excellent underlying defensive numbers. Now, when we're comparing somebody like Martinez versus Ake, and I do apologise for the graphic here, I have Bruno and KDB in the whites there. It actually should be Martinez instead of Bruno and Ake instead of Kevin De Bruyne. So I do apologise for that one there. 4.5 million for Martinez, I think, is probably the route that a lot of managers want to go for if they are attacking the Man United defence. With a double game week in 22, naturally I think a lot of managers are going to be vying for that short-term returns in their teams. And it poses a real deliberation for a lot of managers out there whether they go for the Bruno Fernandes route with the double attack alongside Rashford, or they go for the double defence route, maybe bring in someone alongside Luke Shaw. And although the strategy of going for Bruno Fernandes feels like a hop-on, hop-off strategy, I think if some managers want to go for Martinez, I think that's a bit more of a longer term strategy. You could play him for the double game week 22, play him in the Leeds away fixture, which I don't think is necessarily the worst in the world, and then a brilliant home fixture against Leicester in game week 24. Now, it's worth noting Man United are almost certain going to blank in game week 25, so you could be left with double Man United defence on your bench, which could pose some problems. But of course, you could deal with that later on with some free transfers in your team. With Ake, on the other hand, a reminder that is the right column on your screen there. We are looking a little bit further down the line for him. Game week 23 is his double game week at home against Aston Villa and away against Arsenal. One would argue, again, much trickier fixtures for Man City there. But after that fixture for Man City, they are away against Nottingham Forest and away against Bournemouth in game week 25. And I would argue there are some fantastic defensive fixtures for Ake going forward. Now, the one thing I would say for both players is, although Martinez and Ake have both scored in their last few games, Looking at the underlying stats per 90, we're not expecting too much from these players. You can see that in the shots department, 0.34 per 90 for Ake, 0.26 for Martinez. Not really anything to scream or shout about. And in particular in the bonus point department as well, we're not looking at players that are in the same caliber as Kieran Trippier, for example. But what I really do like, and as I mentioned, is the longer term planning for your teams. I think I was going in for one right now. I do like the Martinez route, but of course it blocks you from the Bruno Fernandes double up alongside Fernandes. I don't think Martinez offers the value knowing that he has a blank in Game Week 25 if you don't make that move now going into Game Week 22. Ake, on the other hand, I think offers much more long-term potential for your team. And knowing that Cancelo has now been sold, I think at 5 million is a fantastic long-term hold for your team, even though he doesn't necessarily offer much going forward from an attacking department. So let me know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I really do think Martinez is a brilliant double up for Luke Shaw if you can't get to Bruno Fernandes and you want that triple up on Man United. Otherwise, if you're looking a bit more long term, you can get that Ake double Game Week 23 and going forward with those fantastic defensive fixtures. Right, guys, last up, I want to cover off another Man City option that, again, requires a little bit more longer term thinking, but I think will pay dividends going forward. And that man is going to be Man City's Riyad Mahrez, somebody that has been absolute sensation over the last few game weeks and really put a question mark on a lot of managers that currently own Kevin De Bruyne in their teams. A player that is about 5 million more expensive than the explosive Riyad Mahrez. And you can see exactly that in the underlying stats on your screen. This is based on the season so far. Expected goals per 90 and expected assists per 90 at 0.36 and 0.3 respectively is really solid underlying stats for someone that is only 7.7 million. And looking at his bonus points per 90 as well, this is actually better than Kevin De Bruyne's over the course of the season so far. And whereas I think a lot of us have been associating Kevin De Bruyne would be a mystic assistant getting in the bonus points, Mahrez has really been the value pick and picking up those bonus points on the same level that Kevin De Bruyne has been offering. And with the expected points per 90 at this price point, and with his minutes being somewhat guaranteed in a Pep Guardiola sense, and again I put that in quotation marks, I really do think Mahrez is a fantastic transfer for our teams. Now again, it definitely comes down to a situation where I don't think anybody is going to naturally think, I'm going to go for Mahrez ahead of Bruno Fernandes, because Bruno, of course, with the double Game Week 22, is going to be the natural move for your teams. However, if you are looking a bit longer term, and as I said, very similar to the Ake discussion that I did have, maybe we could be in a situation where Kevin De Bruyne is currently in your team, you decide to downgrade him to Bruno Fernandes for Game Week 22. I think going to Mahrez for Game Week 23 is actually the play for your team. It frees up more money in the bank for you going forward, instead of going up into Kevin De Bruyne and needing to find other ways of getting the funds if you don't have it already in the bank. And I think Mahrez also offers that fantastic deliberation about whether you go for double Man City defence, singular Man City defence, and have Mahrez plus Haaland. I think that's going to be a really interesting debate across the FPL community. And although I don't think necessarily going for Mahrez this game week is essential because he has an away fixture against Tottenham, I really do think he needs to be in our thought process going forward about how we can get him into our teams. Because with that away fixture against Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth for game week 24 and 25, he feels like one of the best value midfielders for us to own going forward. And if you have that luxury position to get him in early, I really do think it could pay dividends, as it's not a transfer you're trying to squeeze in later down the line when his price is naturally going to increase. So guys, that is going to wrap up the top transfers going into double game week 22. I'll be really interested to know your thoughts on the players that we've discussed and any that haven't mentioned that are currently on your radar. And as a reminder, guys, if you did enjoy the video, please do drop a like on the video. And if you are looking for the long run, it'd be fantastic if you could hit that subscribe button and get you on board this season. So guys, that just leaves me to say, I will see you on Friday's live stream an hour before the deadline. Take care and I'll see you soon. Cheers.